All right. Welcome to the WolfShadePodcast, episode 69. Episode 69, part two with I got my intros in spec. So I gotta work on this.
No, that's
So I
okay.
read the Urban Dictionary, I read the regular dictionary. So I'm gonna go crazy with this intro.
Do
Y'all
it.
seen her from the last episode. Y'all seen her from her Instagram post. I have with me again the lovely, the undeniable, out of this world, very vicious, very confident, very flamboyant, Tara or Tara, whatever she prefers. How you doing?
Sarah is perfect. Thank you, Anthony, once again for having me. One heck of an intro once again as well. I really appreciate that. You are too kind.
Listen, I try to be kind everywhere I can get, and just making sure everybody and pretty much everyone that I have on here have a good time on the podcast and just a good time, whatever. And before I forget this, because I know I'm gonna forget this by the ending, we already got part three confirmed. Miss
Yeah,
Tara is the first. Well, yeah, she's the first female cosplayer to ever do a part three on the podcast. So hats off to her. And we're gonna be bringing some good
I'm
content for
humbled for this.
you.
Thank you.
We're gonna bring some good content for you on part three, probably more of a adult type of level type of thing, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah,
But yeah. But
stay tuned.
yeah, but how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing well. I can't complain. I try not to complain, even though I want to complain, even though people expect me to complain, but I just don't. But
Hey,
above all,
time and place. If you feel
yeah,
like ranting or yapping, it's
listen,
your podcast.
when it comes to me and yapping, that does not get along. But look, it's just look, it may be my podcast, this is your episode, but it's just like, look, I try not to yap. That kind of goes along the lines of specific conversations that we had beforehand. It's just,
Mm,
people just testing patience and stuff these days and everything.
sure.
And obviously conventions and convention squabbles and all that too, and how I'm trying to bypass everything in the metrics, trying to make sure this convention season goes well with everybody, and just making
Mhm.
sure in general, people have fun and everything. 'Cause I know you've been kind of taking a break these last few months anyway from conventions and stuff, so I know I mean, mainly myself has just been wondering what's been going on with that, because I know you've been busy. I know you've been busy because like I'm expecting you to, if I'm not mistaken, your last convention was like what, few months
It
back or a couple months
was,
ago?
yeah, it was in May, Kogara
Okay,
Con, which was our
okay.
first time going actually
Mm-hmm.
here in New Jersey. And we
Mm-hmm.
liked it. It was a cute one day con held at a community college.
Mm-hmm.
Albeit it was a rainy day, so weather could have been nicer, but not too bad. Pretty surprising turnout, 'cause
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't expecting much, but as the hours went by, it was like, oh, there's a lot of people here. And even though it was a Saturday, real college hours were also happening. So
Oh
like
yeah.
you could step into a hallway or a stairwell and it's like, ooh, there's real students trying to get their education on. Shout
So
out to them.
when it comes to conventions, especially around that season, especially around May, you're gonna expect a lot of college students. It's more
Totally.
it's more just about the curiosity spectrum and stuff like that. And obviously when I was bringing up MagFest and Katsu, and then a bunch of other conventions too, that hopefully people can run into you and everything, and show their support and everything, and not be annoying, creepy,
You're
and
fine.
cocky individual bastards. But hey, it
Right.
happens. But yes, but it's just more of that type of thing, and I'm trying to
Mhm.
have the convention season go swell for everybody, but sometimes it may not happen for everybody. Um, but yeah, any upcoming conventions you may try to pull through to?
This year, I don't
It
believe.
don't it don't have to be this year. It could be next year.
Yeah, I mean, next year definitely TBD on cons. You
Hmm.
know, we try to do KatsuCon. I've never been to MagFest, even though I know
Um,
it's held at the same
yeah,
venue. I would still
yeah,
like to check that out sometime.
yeah.
You and I were talking about Colossal Con East before we
Hmm.
started the podcast,
Hmm.
which, you know, we love that, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you know, like when you asked me about any new cosplays I'm working on, or, you know,
Hmm.
besides, you know, things I have to finish that's been sitting in my closet, staring
It's
back at me like, come on, Tara. Um, yeah, it's like, you know, it's just priorities and money and, you know, just focusing on other life endeavors and,
hmm.
you know, I don't can we curse here or no? I don't know. I want to say
You know how
something.
many times I
Okay.
cursed in 60 something episodes?
True. I mean, I just want to make sure because if you're like, no, I want to get a sponsor one day, watch your language. I
See,
want to be
I
respectful
would
of that.
usually do that type of thing just to be petty to see how far they would take it. But at the end of the day, I know how genuinely nice you are, and
You are so sweet.
I know how sometimes you can, get angry too. And I'm not trying to get to
We
that
all
level.
have
So
our moments, Anthony. You know, we're all human.
I know that.
Um,
I
yeah.
know, I know. But at that time you was angry, I
Understood.
was like, let me not bother her for today.
No, you are never a bother. I appreciate you
Oh
very
no,
much.
I just do that in general because like if I notice people
Right.
are angry, I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna have them cool down. I'm gonna go over here. I'm just gonna keep, do me. So,
Sure. No, I
but
hear
yeah.
you. But yeah, it's just, you know, life and adulting and different priorities. Like we love going to conventions, but it adds up, it gets expensive. And, you know, I mean, if we can swing it, if it makes sense with our schedule and I'm not booking any freelance gig or, you know, Tin has PTO, you know, from his job, then cool, we'll do the thing. But yeah, right now it's just not a priority. In terms of like any upcoming events, though,
Mm-hmm.
I am making an appearance at the Soju Guild anime karaoke event, and
Lit.
Soju Guild is a event company, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Our friend AJ owns it, runs it, however you want to call it. Shout out to him. And they do, you know, different partnerships with soju companies and other entertainers, cosplayers, DJs, venues, all that, you know, good stuff. And uh, I think it's called, is it Space KTV question mark? Ah, I ought to have looked that up before we started, but it's a venue in Philly and they host at least once, maybe twice a month, a different event, whether that's an anime themed rave or a video game themed or karaoke event like this one coming up. You know, it's just a neat way for, you know, the local community to come together for a night. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, obviously, besides the upcoming guesting, will be my first time doing that. That's exciting.
Lit. Mm-hmm.
That's probably where you'll find me in terms of events in the near future, just because it's easier to swing a party for a few hours, a little cosplay moment, a little
Mm-hmm.
free phone charm, and a signed cosplay card if you fancy, versus like, okay, let's like book a con and do the whole shebang, get the badge, get the hotel, get the
Yeah.
travel and stuff. Not that we'll never do it again, but unfortunately, I don't have anything coming up.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
What about you? I know we were talking about CCE, may or may not happen for you.
CC is a little bit like correspondent right now because obviously, obviously I got a personal endeavor coming up
Hmm.
that that is literally on September 6th. So it's kind of something I don't want to miss. It's just like, that's like a family related thing.
Of course.
And it's just like, okay, if I don't, it's always next year. So
Absolutely.
that's a little bit of
Exactly.
debate. It's a little bit of debate, but Anime USA. Anime
Never
USA is
been.
definite. It's it's good though. It's like I think held around the same area where BlurCon is at.
Okay, which I've never been to that one either. I want to go to both, definitely.
Just
What's
letting you
making
know.
you laugh?
Oh no. Both are good cons. It's just Blurred is just too much fun. Even Jabon can tell you that.
Too much. Is there such a thing?
Listen, it's never, it's never, it's never too much fun at cons. It's never. It's a lot of fun.
Do you mind if I ask, do you turn up at
Oh,
events, cons? Do you partake? Because you know I'm 420 friendly.
I'm 420 friendly too. It's just, it's like I try not to mix both,
Oh yeah, getting
but it's
cross-fitted
just
in
like,
cosplay. It's
yeah,
horrible.
it's just on some conventions it happens. Like MagFest, that's a definite happening. But it's just like I don't notice it because people be giving me edibles.
Oh man.
And I'm not gonna shy away from some gummy bears, right? Especially the sour ones. So I'm crushed. Oh, I'm bringing up one story now because like I'm really looking at my cosplay thing right now because I gotta figure out. I need to get another mask for this.
Iconic.
Yeah, but it's like, excuse me, it's like with that. If I remember this correctly, I got a whole pack of gummy bears, but to come to find out, those were like the THC versions, right? I don't know if it's my body agreeing with me, but it's we had a bunch of them.
Oh my
We did.
God.
Me and a friend had a bunch of them. Next thing I know, one of my friends, like we was at a hotel party, everybody was drinking, security checking everybody at the door. A good party, everybody trusting each other and all that too. So it was like, and no illegal stuff was handled. Dude, it was just, I mean, some people consider weed illegal, don't get it, but it happens.
Sure.
But yeah, we was having a good time. We was like drinking and all this other stuff. And somebody was asking me, "Do you want some gummy bears?" I was like, "Sure." I mean, I need some candy in my system anyway, not knowing it was the THC version. So
Horrible.
I had what about maybe just a few.
How many is a few?
Do you count 10 as a few?
Yeah, I think 10 is a lot.
Okay,
I think it's more than a
listen.
few.
I'm gonna say this now. I don't remember the number specifically, but I know it's around that number.
I think around that number is risky, Anthony.
Listen. I know the human body can take so much THC. That's what I'm saying. I don't remember the number verbally or
Sure.
in my head, but I know it's a lot because I'm snacking on these things like it's no tomorrow, right?
Of course, because you think it's just candy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no.
And then the next thing I know, I gave my friend some, and then I see him. I literally see him staring off into space for a good minute, and then 15 minutes later, when I, come from using the bathroom, I see him out on the goddamn chairs at it was out of MagFest or Katsu, one of those. I just know he was out in the chairs because the chairs at the gala are comfortable as hell.
Hmm.
Um, and he was out, so I was like, I kept tapping him. He wakes up, and I was like, okay, like pull his eyelids down, and he just falls back asleep. I was like, okay, he's blitz right now. So I'm sitting down. I'm already drunk, but at the end of the day, it's more of like it's more of like a type of drunk that's what's the word I'm looking for? That's that's like, okay, I can still be coherent
Hmm.
of what I'm doing, but it's more of the type of focus, right?
Mm.
And then I'm already, drunk off of my goddamn rocker. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, what do I do? What am I doing? Because like, if I know I'm going to be at this point of a caliber, I just be like, okay, let me just sit here And let me just sit here and just be like, okay, let me calm this down. I just usually just sit there and just be like, okay, let's just calm down. Let's just take it easy for a bit, and let's just keep it cool. Hold on.
Take your time.
But it's just more of that type of that type of spectrum. So I'm thinking, okay, we can we could do this and then do that. I'm just sitting there like, okay, I know this is why am I like this? So let me just sit down and take a few things and just chill. Hold on. But it's like with that, okay, let me just sit here and chill and just, be calm because, when you having fun, obviously you need to calm down or whatever and just, just be very, I wouldn't say focused, not and helpful because, I know a lot of people out here, like especially in this community, sometimes they can't control the alcohol. And it's like, when they can't control the alcohol, they tend to, do some unnecessary, nefarious stuff that, gets them in the bad run, which I always tell people if you're gonna drink, like, don't go crazy with it. Kind of just you know, be tame a little bit, but also have fun, drinking people that you trust. Because a lot of
Mhm.
people don't really understand that portion of perspective and everything. So I'll be telling people like, hey, try to at least do that. And then, with these conventions, I understand, people love to have fun and everything. And people love to, have fun with their friends and everything too. And people always ask me, hey, what's the main thing that you look for when it comes to, these conventions? I was like, I really don't look for anything. It's just if people want to have a good time, just do that. And it's for me, it's like for me, I mainly have a panel or something, or people have something that they doing like photo shoots and everything. Because these conventions are, very dazzling and crazy, and they can kind of put a lot of pressure on people and everything.
Mhm.
And people just want to have fun and not you know deal with any pressure.
Mhm.
People want to, that was mom. But
Tell her I said hi.
but like she on the phone. But
Oh yeah,
people
don't bother her. She's
people
busy.
yeah, people love to obviously um have fun at these conventions and stuff like that, which is understandable. I kind of usually want to work and, like, see what's going on because work can get you and stuff free sometimes. So
Totally.
it, it's just with that. So I'm like, okay, you can have fun at these conventions and all that, but just kind of be mindful of certain things because people want to have fun with their friends, and I don't think people are mindful when it comes to conventions. I feel like people are more iffy of expectations of this person, of a specific person. If that goes along the conversations of people not liking you by association with someone else. That
Sure.
kind of go along the lines of that one. And like you can be hyped for a convention and everything too, but the only issue is just like, okay, and like you have these problems that you got to deal with down the line, which is not really
You're so popular.
yeah.
Just like last time. Anthony, you were hyping me up in the intros, and I appreciate that. Once again, thank you. You're so kind. But
Listen.
look,
I
you
usually
got a
don't
lot going for you.
listen.
This podcast being one of those things.
Listen. This podcast is just here. It's not for popularity. Like if it gets there, it gets there. Like I'm
Sure.
trying to have this podcast, obviously to explain, people's stories behind the scenes of their cosplaying and everything, and what they love to do being a cosplayer.
Hmm.
And that was the main protocol for that was kind of like the main protocol for this season and everything. I want people to know their stories and all that. And you just brought one person to my attention. I forgot to get on there. But I just want people to have fun and just knowing everybody's stories and everything. And, for the podcast and everything, kind of had to deal with some ups and downs with everybody, when it
Thank
comes
you.
to just asking people, hey, if it's possible to have you on an episode of podcast, if it's, and, majority of them say no, just be like, hey, look, I'm still going to, support you either way because, people have expectations because I notice a lot when it comes to mine. It's just, if I have somebody on here, they kind of expect me to make a big deal. If I get told, I was like, well, I mean, you don't you don't see that from me.
Sure.
So
You
I
seem like a
feel.
very chill guy. You.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Oh,
Hold on. A second.
sure. Subscribe to the podcast, everybody. Now's the time. Do the thing. What are you waiting for? Are you having fun? I'm having Anthony's having fun. Do-do-do-do. Da-da-da-da-da. Do you see the plushies? Ta-da! Little ASMR moment. I'm gonna stop. See, the last time I didn't realize that he was just gonna leave this part in, which is fine. But I'd rather entertain you. Or he could just cut this out. That's fine. It's your podcast, Anthony. Speaking of, hello again. I was just talking to everybody else.
I appreciate you entertaining the crowd when I was gone, but
I was trying. I hope, it's sufficient. You'll be the judge
I mean,
when
I
you look
usually
back.
I usually keep things heavily uncensored on here
Yeah.
because like
Well,
that
that's the
goes on.
thing, because the last episode, you had to do something or whatever, and I didn't realize. I was just sitting and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just do a little jig. I'm gonna talk to the people. And if you don't like it, chop it. Who cares? But I thought that
I
was
mean,
funny.
yeah, I was about to say I thought that bit was actually pretty hilarious, so that's
Yeah,
why I
I
just
loved
kept it in
it.
there.
Yeah, it was great.
But what was I talking about? That kind of goes along with the rules
Talking about
of
like
the.
partying
Oh
and
yeah.
stuff at
That
cons.
yeah, that kind of goes along the lines of like the rules I'm trying to have for the podcast and everything because sometimes I always have specific rules because I'm not trying to silence free speech. Like obviously people can say what they want, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like a censor of certain things that, can be said. It's just like one, you know, I always say this as one of the rules. And I was like, look, I respect your political views, but that's not the stuff I'm looking for on here. Like you can have fun, talking about the person you're going to vote for and everything too. And there might be some other people that might not do that. Like, don't get me wrong, politics are a niche when it comes to being talked about. But at the end of the day, it's more of okay, why is this continuously being talked about, but also you got some people that be made uncomfortable from this specific ailment. But politics is kind of something I kind of shy away from. If we talk about it, we talk about it, but at the end of the day, we don't talk about it long. Another thing, like that's another rule, is also personal, stuff, right? You know how many times you brought up, your significant other the last episode, and I brought it up once.
Right.
That's like a big cue of mine. I feel
Mm,
like it's like I feel like it's none of my business nor anybody else's about who, you know,
for
who you're
sure.
with. But
I
at
mean,
the end of the day,
I respect your position on that and I appreciate that. And for the record, like I've told you before, you've never made me uncomfortable and you and I have clear communication. I think we
mhm,
both feel comfortable, you know, saying so if that was the case. And to be honest, when I was watching back the first episode, it's like, yeah, not that I have to talk about my relationship, but I just I'd be forgetting sometimes to like bring stuff up. And that's why I'm like, shoot, like maybe I should mention. So, it's not the end of the world, but it was more of like not really intentional. It was just like, oh,
yeah, no,
yeah,
no, it's
bring
not,
it up,
no, no, it's
didn't
not,
get to it.
no, it's not intentional at all, man. At the end of the day, it's just I try not to, I never like really ask like personal questions like that
Sure.
unless the person talks about it first, which really does happen a lot on here. So I'd be
Yeah.
like, look, do you want to continue that? Because I know we will go off and on a tangent if we continue that conversation.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, I would want people to be comfortable and have fun, you know, being on the podcast and everything. But obviously, a lot of people, obviously, a lot of people sometimes I'll be letting them know, like, hey, let's just do this. Let's just like keep certain topics, at hand. Let's just keep certain topics at hand that can go along long line with the podcast, and to make sure that the person is, what's the word, comfortable,
Hmm.
because you want to make sure that the person that you at least have on, let's say, like you have in your house or you meet up with, or you have like on something like this, is comfortable at all costs. Like you want that for people. And I think a lot of people understand that notion, but majority don't. And just like, okay, you want people to be comfortable, you want people to have fun. You
Hmm.
obviously want people you know, to have fun just doing what they love to do. And that's like that's kind of like bringing up another topic, like cosplay does not mean consent too, right?
Hmm.
Because I will not begin to tell you how much I've always speaking on that type of thing. That's why when it comes to specific cosplayers, that'd be like, okay, I hate this thing. That's why I'll always be like, okay, when it comes to meeting specific cosplayers, whether male, female, trans, whatever they want us to call them, it's like, okay, introduce myself, um, you know, talk about, things that they may be comfortable with, like maybe anime or specific things. Be sure to never ask them personal questions unless they're the ones that bring it up. And kind of like just let the conversation drive by. If you notice that the conversation is going out of control, just kind of dimmer down from that conversation.
Mhm.
And I've met the fair share of that. I have met a fair share of. Hold on. I have met a fair share of people that are like, okay, no, I'm not going to, respect somebody's boundaries when it comes to cosplay. You'll meet a lot of people like that, and and I try to be on that element of not trying to associate with people. I love meeting people. At the end of the day, it's just people are trying to be mindful and like making sure that these simple things don't happen. And there's nothing wrong with people being mindful. It's just people don't respect that. And then when people, let's say specific cosplay or anything, sees an effort that somebody is trying to do by being like, hey, I know you got these specific things that you're not comfortable with. I'm just have a specific conversation because this comes from a dude that's like I've noticed lately that people have been on a tangent about being left on scene. I noticed that lately.
Oh, really?
Yeah, everybody's been on a tangent about being left on scene. I'm just like, I mean, you talking to a dude that
Happens to
barely.
everyone.
Yeah, I'd be like you. I tell people you talking to a dude that barely is even on this freaking out to begin with. Besides just posting in the story. So if people, you know, if people decide to, if people decide to leave, leave me on scene, I'll just be like, look, I'm not on here anyway. So if I randomly just be like, if you randomly didn't mean to leave me on scene, that's sure. I mean, I don't care, but look, I'm tired. Like it's,
Sure.
but I noticed like people always make that into a tangent, and when it comes to specifically just a specific someone, I'm not going to name their names, but I noticed that people be on a specific tangent about us when we really don't say anything. I'm
Mm,
like, wait, you mean to tell me that y'all on a tangent about y'all leaving us on scene when we barely even say anything about it? And you got people out here that will make a big deal about being left on scene. It's just I'm not going to message people to get a reaction from them. Like
sure.
obviously we busy and stuff like that. Like
Hmm.
that's the second point I want to put in there. Like obviously we're busy and people are they got dramas at hand that they want to bypass and want people want to be left alone. Some are busy to the point where they're barely even on here. So
Hmm.
I kind of want to bring that point into play a little bit.
Hmm.
But I've noticed that people yeah, that's been a tangent lately. I'm just saying you are making a big deal because people, are respectful of your preference. I mean, I keep telling people like, yeah, you got the creepy dudes and all that. You got the people. I mean, like, people call me weird just for the people I associate with. I'm just like, damn, I never paid you any mind, and you calling me this? Oh well.
Mm.
I be telling people you can hold on again. Hold
Yeah.
on.
Mm. Who's a gamer? This is Tato. Isn't he sweet? He's actually a light. He doesn't. Oh, there we go. little show and tell action for the good people. Once again, we're on the Coke Zero. We were doing a show and tell, and something may have dropped on the floor. We may have had a big
You spilled some
sound
Diet Coke,
happening.
didn't you?
No, I did not. I knocked over a controller actually because I was showing off a light, my little potato light.
That's a
So,
controller?
oh no,
Oh,
no, this is a controller, but I knocked this over by accident to get to the light to show the good listeners of this podcast.
that's crazy. I used to be on Xbox too.
Nice.
Yeah, but what was I saying? I lost my train of thought. But
Um,
oh, I
Not being
remember.
perceived a certain way, which we kind of were talking about even last episode too.
Yeah,
You don't appreciate.
the issue. Yeah, I really don't appreciate, the certain thing. It's just that's kind of like a real issue when it comes to this community. Is like, okay, they want to perceive you as something when they don't know you. It's just from specific things that other people have interactions with.
Mhm.
Okay, you see them specifically. You specifically see me having an interaction with somebody, and you don't like that person, and then you kind of go after that person because you don't like them, and you want to make the other person who got nothing to do with anything, their life living hell for what reason? To me, I don't find that. I really don't find that type of thing appropriate
Mhm.
because it's like, okay, people perceive things differently. I don't know how you perceive things when it comes to people, but when it comes to just knowing somebody, I think people are so quick to judge when it comes to perceiving people because a lot of people can perceive everyone differently. There's nothing wrong with that. You could be iffy of people. I always tell people you can be iffy of me, but I always tell people don't be iffy of me and interact with me,
Mhm.
knowing that you got this bad iffy thing, you know, like about you. Like if you're iffy from what you heard from other people, that's fine. That's fine. You know, you can think whatever you want, have fun thinking that, but at the end of the day, don't be iffy of someone just because they had a specific interaction with somebody and you don't like that person. I don't think that's right. Like you
Sure.
may have a difference of opinion on this. That's just mine though.
No, and I appreciate that. I feel similar towards you, I think. Like we talked about, I guess, before we started the podcast. I've definitely been on both sides, the right and the wrong side of that type of situation where I'm going through it, have issues with someone. Me and this person have a lot of mutual friends or connections, and it was really tough to, I guess, have all of that existing at once. You know what I mean? And like,
Mm-hmm.
feeling me feeling a type of way about it. And, it again, it's very nuanced. It's very case by case. We're just sort of speaking generally here, but it's like, I don't know how to say. I agree that, everyone's relationships are, complicated, but also things should be handled between the relevant parties. Just because I have an issue with someone doesn't mean that my mutual should take my side or their side, or you know what I mean? I don't think that's always fair. And like I was telling you on a separate occasion, I feel bad for these podcast listeners because you and I are talking and we have a lot of good things to say that don't always make it to the podcast, but that's okay. That's why we're doing a multi-part series here. Um, But I think, social media blurs the lines too, because I think it can give us a false sense of closeness, or we know someone better than we think we do, or because we're only one click and a DM away, oh, I must have access to this person. Um, and, as a woman in this community, I am working on, not perceiving men to be automatically creepy or whatever. I really try to give people a chance. And like I said in the last episode, it's like, regardless of gender or the situation, we all have a responsibility to advocate for ourselves. And if you're not comfortable with how a conversation's going or an interaction or whatever the case, we need to be able to have the courage and the communication to say that. And because if someone else doesn't know that what they're doing is making you uncomfortable or it's a problem, then how are they going to know? How are they going to have a chance to possibly redirect? Or, you, the person, might have an issue. Maybe there's something that you can learn. What does that say about yourself? Or, what priorities do you have for friends or relationships that make you feel more comfortable? Does that make sense?
Hmm.
So that's my take on it.
No, I agree with that take. I just feel when it comes to that aspect, certain things around that, what's the word, curriculum is not fair, because I don't think it's fair for people to find out things at the last minute, especially when it comes to this type of thing, because people shouldn't be finding out people shouldn't be finding out about things at the last minute that um excuse me, that makes my uncomfortable. People shouldn't be finding out this stuff at the last minute.
Right.
It's just like, hey, is this if it's something that, you know, that, let's just say, that is iffy about me, that makes you uncomfortable, like, be sure to let me know as a person. You
Yeah.
know, don't be don't be don't be what's the term? Don't be calling towards other people when you don't even know that person. I have to go on my
Mhm.
ring is that that's what I did that behind me just now. But I'll look for it later. But but it's like with that, like, let the person know
Mhm.
beforehand, and maybe it doesn't have to be such a debacle of what's going on and everything. And
Totally.
I think people don't have some people don't have a sense of respect for that type of thing.
Mhm.
And I feel like, okay, if you don't have a specific set of you know boundary to, let's say, talk to somebody about this type of debacle, and let's say you find out truly about this person based on how they are in person, and then you DM them later being like, hey, sorry I made these assumptions about you, but they don't say anything. And then, ooh, shoot. And then you're wondering why, hey, why is this person not talking to me when you know deep down the exact reason?
Mhm.
People, I've noticed, kind of don't want to, what's the term? They don't want to learn from a spectrum of, they don't want to learn from a spectrum of, hey, this person can, this person seem cool, but they associate with this person because they can't stand them. Let me not associate with them as well. Okay, why include somebody in something that has nothing to do with a said situation? That's the type of thing I don't think that's right.
I agree. Yeah, it's not fair, I feel. I guess we're all entitled to do and feel however we think is best. And, for whatever reason, someone behaves like that, yeah, it feels kind of unnecessary depending on the situation. But, that's why we can only control ourselves. We can't
Mm-hmm.
control the thoughts, actions, what people say or do about us, around us, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So I try not to worry about that. And it's like, I'll still try to give someone a chance. I'll still try to reach out or whatever. And then the ball's in their court. They don't fuck with me for whatever reason. Okay, life moves on. There are plenty of people that I don't fuck with for whatever rhyme or reason. So can't really fault you on that. It's human nature at the end of the day. Millions of people on earth, billions even. So,
Yeah, that's the type of topic where it's just okay, how is this type of thing, applicable for this term for people, for things, and it's just I be telling people if you're trying to perceive people a certain way and they don't like mess with you anymore, that's kind of your problem. That's not theirs.
mhm.
Because mm, people perceive people perceive so many people with different names. There's so many I could discuss, but I'm gonna leave that to them. But it's like with that, how are you going to say something about this person when it's just them doing it by association? I mean, because you don't like somebody by association. That's what I kind of find like really annoying and kind of stupid a little bit, but it
Sure.
happens.
No, totally. And, I think if people really want to get to know each other or clear the air on something or have their own experience with someone, they should go and do that. But if they choose to not, they choose to take someone else's experience as their own or whatever the case is, then, unfortunately, it is what it is, you know.
People never listen to the it is what it is part because when it comes to this can even work out for relationships too. And you know, obviously if people want to, let's say some people are ready to commit now and that person's ready to commit too, and then once everything is good, they about to commit and all that, then let's say a couple weeks later that person's not ready to commit, but they didn't let the other person know. Like it's so many different options when it comes to when it comes to these things that it's kind of just out of the ordinary. That's why
Mm,
I kind of just, you know, stay away from that tangent. And that tangent really goes along lines of people to, talk about. But
mhm.
I've noticed that people people don't want to have that conversation.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that people don't want to have that serious type of conversation, knowing that that conversation could go, out of pocket, out of the ordinary, or just be like, hey, I don't want to talk about this anymore. This conversation makes me uncomfortable. But hey, and that one person be like, hey, your actions prove otherwise. We're going to talk about this or another. We can't keep playing these teenager games over and over again because you don't want to talk.
Mhm. I think that's a really good point of like, it's so easy, at least for me, to like villainize the other party, let's say, if there's an issue. Like the friend I brought up in the last episode, where it's like, I felt like they didn't care about me as much as I cared about them. because I perceived their actions and just treatment of me at the time a certain way. I jumped to my own conclusions. And then, they, because of how I was feeling, I was pulling back. And it wasn't until recently they reached out to me, not once, but twice. And I did leave them on red the first time, not out of malice, but one of the many things my therapist has taught me is if you don't know what to say nothing. You
Mm-hmm.
don't know what to do nothing. And so typically, because I don't like to be impulsive, I can get very emotional. I'm a pretty sensitive person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I try not to, heat of the moment, rage text someone, because, I don't want to regret, something I've said or, escalate a situation if it's unnecessary. But yeah, they reached out that second time and was like, look, like if there's something wrong, if there's something I did, like what you were just talking about, like, please let me know. I want to be able to work through this because to the point, if we don't communicate there's anything wrong or uncomfortable, then yeah, obviously, how are you supposed to know that there's something wrong or something that
Mm-hmm.
needs to be addressed or discussed or anything? And so when I finally opened up and I told them that I was feeling that way and obviously, they apologized, but, they explained their side of the story as well. And that cleared up a lot of my perception. And I even apologized too that, what, I should have been direct and honest with you sooner. I'm sorry that I assumed the worst. Because that's the thing. It's like, it's not always the worst case scenario, and if you have anxiety, or you kind of ruminate and spiral into you know chaotic thinking like I do sometimes, it's like, yeah, it's easy to kind of catastrophize a situation, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, with just a simple conversation and feeling safe with each other enough to be open, because I think that's part of it too, where it's like you were just saying how, like, I think some people are afraid to speak up because they're afraid of getting backlash or someone lashing out or rejecting them or something, but that still isn't a valid, I don't want to say that's not a valid reason. I still think it's better to communicate and be honest when you can, and like as someone who has ghosted someone in the past, I mean, we've all, look, I've been ghosted. I've also ghosted. Looking back, I felt justified because I thought, like I'm describing the other friend, that they knew what they were doing. I assumed that they were on some shit and they knew it and I was tired of it and I didn't think a conversation was going to solve anything, so I pulled the plug. Looking back, I don't think that I regret ending the friendship, but I wish I went about it differently, because like a few months after that I got ghosted by somebody else. And it's a similar vibe where it's like, what, the friendship was a little toxic on both sides. It wasn't great for anybody. Um, and even if it's not for the sake of trying to repair a relationship, it's like looking back, I wish I would have gotten that closure from being ghosted. So then
Mm-hmm.
that's what makes me look back on that, the other, I'm like bringing up all these friends at once, the friend that I ghosted, and be like, "Ah, I should have maybe tried to have a conversation or been like, hey, I'm done, XYZ reasons." And then, the rest is history. But
Hey, look, I could go into a tangent of how people don't want to have conversations in this community, but I'm gonna shut up on that one because
let us
what if,
be the ones to tell y'all and encourage y'all. If you got something to say it. Hopefully you got friends and loved ones, significant others that make you feel safe to share. And if you don't feel safe to share, we might need to do some self-exploration. If you have access to therapy or a mental health support, those are great resources to help with that. Because look, I'm a former people pleaser. Okay. I had been putting everyone before me. And part of that was not standing up for myself. But if I'm not happy in a situation, the only person that can get me out of it is me, you
True.
know? So, yeah.
Mm, mm.
Oh, and I wanted
Um,
to just touch on what you were talking about earlier with like partying and like turning up and stuff at cons. Yes, everyone listening, enjoy responsibly first and foremost.
yeah,
We have all had our way too much consumptions and horror stories, and at least I have. Maybe I shouldn't make a generalization. And even if you're not the one turning up to max capacity, you've been to a con, you've been to an event where someone's slumped over, vomiting all over the floor, pulled out, with security. Like it can definitely get crazy. And all jokes aside, like shit does happen. People do get roofied and assaulted and hurt and stolen from, and it's not worth it. You have to be able to find the balance of, if you want to partake, I recommend do your own stuff. Because, like what happened to you with the gummy bears, sometimes people are not transparent. Or I've even had friends, I will not name names, obviously. No one's been named in this podcast. Uh, but I've had friends at cons who just, for shits and giggles, they're like, yeah, I'll take this random pill from a stranger. And then an hour later, they're freaking out and they're having like heart palpitations. And I'm like, why would we do that? Because you don't know what you're taking. You don't know what people's intentions are. Like, it is so not worth the risk. Um, yeah. So definitely, yeah, mix your own drink, smoke your own weed, like, try to, pace yourself. Don't, you know, don't what you call, what is the funnel, don't funnel like a whole bottle of soju, or two or three, and then while out because you're just asking for trouble. Especially because if, and like you were talking about, if you're not with the right people, some people do not give two shits or a fuck. You'll be passed out somewhere and people are walking away from you. We've seen that happen at cons too. It is really horrible. So
oh yeah,
be careful, you guys. And to go with that too, especially with wanting to meet people at cons, I try to be mindful with my substances, because I mean, unless it's like really late after hours, if you meet me 2 a.m. on a Saturday, I might be drunk. I don't know. But, I try to not be, I want to be present. I want to, be cognitive or cognizant, whatever the word is. I want to be locked in, when I meet somebody. I want, them to, and again, we can't help people's expectations of us or if we meet them or not. That's totally out of my control. I don't dwell on that. But, I just try to be, friendly and have all my wits about me. I don't want to meet someone for the very first time, especially someone who's been supporting me and what I've been doing, for all this time. And I'm just like sloshed and they're like, she was so messy, or, like I would, I don't intend to leave a negative impression. You know what I mean? But then again, I
yeah.
don't think anyone really intends to. Or maybe they do. I don't know. We got some crazy characters in the community.
Like I said, I could go on a tangent about that part, but I ain't going to. I'm gonna save
Thanks for
that for
letting
next
me go on
time.
a tangent.
Listen, everything you spoke of was correct, but at the end of the day, people, it's good to have that mindfulness, but I promise you, people aren't ready to have that conversation.
That's why they
And
gotta listen to the podcast episodes. They gotta get their what do you call? Got to get the appetizer going. And then we got to serve the meat and potatoes to them, Anthony,
It's
in part three.
you talking about appetizer?
I
Like,
am.
like you've seen some of these appetizers and food places be like full course meals.
True. And the portions, though, like, yeah. Do you have a favorite appetizer?
Um, from restaurant wise, I don't know. I'm usually the type of person in restaurants that just straight up eat the bread all the time. That's what I usually do.
Nothing wrong with that.
Like with appetizers, could be like some chicken or some seafood or something, but these appetizers are usually meals by the time the actual one comes about. You don't and you can't even
So
finish the
true.
actual one.
Mm-mm.
That's mm, that's like going along the lines of that's like going along the lines of specific things you were just describing. Like you can call these things an appetizer, and then the full course meal comes into play. And I'm just thinking, oh, okay, I guess we gotta deal with this now. But as I said, the community is great. Like I love meeting everybody in the community, and then for some odd reason, I just found out that that I got fans. Didn't know that, but at the end of the day,
Love that for
I'm not
you.
gonna
As you should.
I
Let's
mean
go.
I try to leave an impression on people to make sure, you know, that they're most comfortable with. If we have similarities in regards to loving the same anime, then okay, we can start up a conversation here or there for hours on end. That's gonna happen
Mm-hmm.
because that conversation is going to be very long. We have similarities when it comes to liking the same specific shows or interests. I feel like if people have the same interests when it comes to shows or animes or perspective, it just clicks like that. But at the end of the day, people will want to have that conversation about, what you just discussed, but promise nobody's going to have that conversation. Some,
It's not up to
some,
us, Anthony. It's their responsibility. We know what's up. We can spread the knowledge and the love to the people who are ready to hear it and who will apply it.
listen, I will spread the knowledge of that type of topic regardless, but at the end of the day, even, 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 um, even Jamon could tell you nobody's ready for that conversation. And I'm just thinking, okay, we ready for conversations about anime. Like people mm-mm-mm. If you play Call of Duty back in 2012 or 2008 and knowing how ruthless that voice chats were back then,
Right. I remember you touched on this last time. Oh,
that's the best way I can describe how the cosplay community can be sometimes
yeah.
because people will talk and everything. I remember this one instance happened to a friend of mine, and he found out that somebody didn't like him because of how he jokes about certain things. He never jokes about anything messed up or anything. He just jokes about mainly about memory. He jokes about how stupid his hairline can be sometimes.
Sure.
There's nothing crazy, but
I don't remember his
to
hairline, so I don't I can't confirm or deny.
but to his surprise it was. But at the end of the day, he's just like, well, it's just a hairline joke about me. It's not about the other person.
Sure.
People need to mind their business, but we know people won't.
And well, and to the point, there is a difference between making jokes directed towards yourself or like self-deprecating versus like speaking directly to someone. or joking about someone else's hairline. And, I think, I love that you have, the social awareness to, read the tone of, a conversation or body language. Obviously, it's tough with like texting or DMing. Sometimes you can't always get the subtext, but I think
Actually,
that's, part of it too, where I think sometimes, perception can get a little distorted because, you perceive someone as one way and maybe they're coming at it from a lighthearted or, whatever the case is. So it's tricky sometimes. It's definitely easier if you can meet people in person or even like a Zoom call, FaceTime, Instagram, video chat, whatever the kids use these days, Discord, I don't know, Twitch. So, yeah.
listen, I feel like for me, it's kind of easy to figure it out the text too, just by how noticing how dry conversation can get sometimes. But at the end of the day, that's a topic for another day.
I hear you. Yeah,
Because
and to be clear for everyone listening, watching, enjoying, the cosplay community is not all bad. Anthony and I are just discussing a portion, a percentage of the to-dos. It's not everyone. We can both know great people, including each other, if I may say.
thank you.
Of course, there are so many chill people who are so talented and easy to get along with and friendly, and there's no funny business or ulterior motive. Because that's a whole other conversation we can get into as well, where, I mean, I'm a content creator, so I get the aspirations and all of that. But sometimes, when you encounter a social climber or someone who's just trying to pick your brain for strategy or resources, like sometimes you can pick up on, when things are getting a little fishy, and that can be, a mess and a half. But, I'm just very blessed, very thankful that, I can call you a friend, Anthony, and, Jamon and other folks, Ty as well. Shout out to them once again. Part two, baby. Because yeah, there's a lot of memories to be made and lots of good times to be had in the community as well.
Yeah, true, true, true. And as she said, that's a that's a story for another day. So I'm gonna keep it I'm gonna keep it short for this one. And we're gonna be lenient on the part three spectrum,
Let's
but
go. Lock in, everybody. Part three coming soon.
oh man, what she said.
Thank you so much for having me once again, Anthony. I really appreciate you.
I do the same with you too.
Thank you.